Showcasing local talent, professionals, and everyday people making Salt Lake City what it is today. It's time for another episode of the I Am Salt Lake podcast.
Alrighty, let's welcome everybody out today to episode 325 of I Am Salt Lake podcast. My name's Chris.
And my name's Chrissy.
We're recording today out of our studios at Access Co-working Spaces right in the heart of beautiful downtown Salt Lake City. Today on the podcast, we get the chance to sit down and have an amazing conversation with Danny B. Stewart. For those of you that don't know Danny, he's a researcher and storyteller here in Utah, which we get into the conversation on why he wants to be referred to as that. He is a writer at Utah Stories, and he is also the founder of the original Provo Utah Ghost Tours.
The thing I like about Danny is he really focuses on the story of everything, you know, and the kind of the experience. It's not a scare tactic.
Yeah, he's not like a paranormal.
Right, yeah.
What's the word I'm looking for?
Investigator.
There's the word I'm looking for, Chrissy. A paranormal investigator.
And I have a fun tip at the end of the episode for people if you listen to the whole episode.
So listen to that whole episode. We're going to get into that conversation here with Danny B. Stewart in just a minute. This episode of the podcast is, of course, proudly sponsored by Five Wives Vodka and Market Source Real Estate. We're going to tell you more about these awesome local businesses and why you need to be supporting them later on in the podcast. For those of you that have never listened to this podcast before, I want to welcome you and thank you for joining us. Hopefully you'll stick around as we've talked to a lot of rad people here in Salt Lake City that are doing some amazing things to make our city a really cool place to live. So head on over to our website, iamsaltlake.com, to find out more about the podcast, subscribe to the podcast, and listen to the entire back catalog of episodes. All right, Chrissy, let's jump into that conversation that we had with Danny B. Stewart when he came over to our recording studios here at Access and shared his story. Enjoy. Where did you grow up? Where's home for you, Danny?
Vineyard, Utah.
Vineyard, Utah. That's right off the, Vineyard. That's funny you say that. A lot of people don't even know where that is.
They don't.
In Utah.
It's
right off of 1600 North there pretty much. At least the exit.
Center Street and Orem. You get out and just go west and you run right into it pretty much. And it's going away though. I mean, it's there, but it's not what it used to be. It used to be a cute little farm town, very quaint, very... You know, I used to say Salem's Lot-ish, or Jerusalem's Lot-ish, based on the whole Stephen King thing, and that's the kind of vibe it used to give me. Now it's
a lot more filled in, a lot more businesses.
It's an ant farm, basically. Yeah. It's just a lot of the same buildings. The charm is gone, but it's still there.
And I mean, you must love Utah if you've stuck around.
I absolutely love Utah. I think there's a lot you can say about a place where you can walk almost anywhere after 3 a.m.
and not worry about getting shot.
And feel like you're 99% safe in most parts of Utah, in Utah County especially.
Oh, yeah, Utah County. I mean, but even Utah County has changed so much even over the last 10 years.
It has.
There's a part of me that is jealous that I don't live down there now versus when I did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Late 90s, early 2000 was horrible down there.
It's like for me, like the safety, and people they rag on the safety aspect and how much of a bubble it is, but it's great for the type of stuff I do.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Because I go out in parks. And
you're going to scary areas
alone or with small groups of students.
Yeah.
And taking them to look for stuff.
That could very well be super dangerous.
Let's jump right into that, Danny. When did you become interested in? Now, before we started recording, you said this, via Facebook, and you said this even tonight. You didn't want to be labeled as a paranormal investigator.
Absolutely not.
Why? Is it bad to be a paranormal investigator? Tell me why you don't want to be labeled that. Let's give that right here on the recording.
I'm probably going to. Here's the thing.
Okay.
In my experience, and I'm not going to. I'm going to sound like I'm making this broad assumption of all of them.
No, you're not.
But I am making a broad assumption of all of them. But I don't want to seem like I am.
It sounds kind of hacky, though. Paranormal investigator. It sounds hacky.
But for the most part, Okay, let me back up a tiny bit. I have a lot of labels that I don't like, but I have to live with them.
Sure.
People call me a cryptozoologist. I'm not a cryptozoologist.
What is a cryptozoologist?
Well, first of all, there's no such thing as a cryptozoologist. There's no school to go to become a cryptozoologist. A cryptozoologist is someone who claims to investigate animals not yet recognized by science.
Okay, I was going to say, it sounds like something to do with dinosaurs.
And like Bigfoot.
Okay,
the creature of Loch Ness. The creature of Bear Lake.
Gotcha.
The creature of Utah Lake. The weird little three-toed thing across Utah Lake. Those types of things fall into the realm of cryptozoology.
But you study those things.
I absolutely do. But here's the thing though. Like, I hunt for ghosts, but I'm not a paranormal investigator. I look for what people define as or call monsters, but I don't hunt monsters. I look for the stories.
Yeah.
I am fascinated with the stories. Does that mean I don't believe them? No, I believe some of this stuff is real. But unlike a lot of the self-proclaimed paranormal investigators out there, I'm willing to accept the logical explanations for a lot of these things. Take the creature of Loch Ness, for example. You have so many people looking for a plesiosaur or a dinosaur in Loch Ness. But let's look at the research of some legitimate researchers like Roy P. Mackal, one of the three fathers of cryptozoology. I'm part of a cryptozoological lineage, by the way.
Oh.
Yes. My mentor, Dr. Paul J. Bybee at Utah Valley University, a demigod of paleontology, his mentor was Roy P. Mackal, who's one of the three fathers of cryptozoology. I call him one of the three fathers of cryptozoology because he's one of the most important people of cryptozoology. So there's a really cool lineage where he mentored Dr. Paul Bybee, and Dr. Bybee mentored me. So it's kind of like I'm cryptozoological royalty, if you think about it.
Yeah, you have a straight descendants.
Straight descendants. But I'm not a cryptozoologist. Where, back to Loch Ness now, look at Roy Mackal's research and other individuals. What could really be in Loch Ness? Well, I think it's either one of three things. A really big fish, or a as yet undiscovered type of large salamander, or a huge eel of some kind, something that has been able to adapt to that environment.
Sure.
Just like the fish that they thought were extinct. Yeah.
64 million years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Dr. Latimer found it in a fish market somewhere in Indonesia,
Yeah.
laying on a table.
Yep.
She saw this thing with this blue, huge fish scales. I was like, what is this thing? And now they're found almost in
now that they're looking for them, they found them everywhere.
They're all over the place.
Yeah.
And indigenous people have been finding them for generations, catching them. That is cryptozoology.
Okay. So
We're looking for animals that
Unknown species.
are unknown, not monsters.
I learn something new every day.
Well, that's technically what monsters are. They're unknown species.
Isn't the
They're
whole
just species we
Bitcoin
haven't
thing
discovered
crypto too? Isn't that?
yet. Oh, that's crypto.
cryptocurrency.
Hidden animals. That's what we're talking about. Hidden animals.
Okay.
Crypto animals.
Well,
Cryptozoology.
let's get into that. I want to get into that here in a little bit, especially Bigfoot, because I'm fascinated by Bigfoot. Ever since I watched Terry and the Hendersons, I love Bigfoot type things. I just but I want to know, when did you get into all of this? Birth. I mean, you're born
when I was a seed. I had this.
It's just a natural thing.
I grew up on a haunted farm in Vineyard, Utah.
A haunted farm.
Okay, we have to hear more about that.
A lot of really strange things happen on there. And now, bear in mind, when I use words like haunted or ghost, I'm really just trying to say, like, I don't know what happened.
Strange things
I don't
happened.
know what was going on there.
Weird spiritual.
Weird stuff. But one of my dads, he gave me a childcraft book set.
I remember those.
And one of them, it was called Mysteries and Fantasies. And this was when I was like 6. Now, I'd already been interested in this, but I'd never had any actual materials, no media on the topic. But I've heard these words my whole life: the Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot. And it wasn't until I had this book in my hand where, the spark was there, but this was the kerosene, to make the flame larger. And ever since that day, I've made it, it's my day job, essentially, to do this, to research, to write about, to collect stories. And it's not important it is important, but to me, if these stories are real or not isn't the main thing. It's that they're real to people.
Yeah.
And it causes fear. It causes fascination.
It's like the experience that it creates.
And these stories, they thrive.
Yeah.
And they grow and they linger for generations, for centuries, for millennia. Mm-hmm. And that makes them real.
So you're more into the storytelling aspect of it.
That's what I
would
yes. That's
so. What is your day job then? What is your day job? Your actual day job? I mean, but what do you write for things? I know you write for Utah Magazine, Utah.
I used to be an adjunct professor at Utah University, and then I moved to Oregon to get a master's in folklore. But I walked away from it because it was just an overglorified gender studies program after 2 semesters.
Folklore is very, a lot of it does have a basis in gender.
Well, it does now.
Oh. From what I've heard, it does.
And I had to walk away from it because it wasn't, we were not going to get into that. It was a poor fit for me, incredibly poor fit for me.
Well, at least you realize that without spending any more time doing it.
Yeah, exactly. But $40,000 down the drain, essentially, but, and so ever since then, like I've just kind of been writing and researching and lucky to have a girlfriend who understands I have no skills in the real world. So.
This is the real world. It's real to some of us.
Sounds kind of like Chrissy with me with this. Let's be podcasters, right? You know?
Yeah, I just let him do his thing. Pat him on the back.
No, there is something to be said about having a very supportive partner, right? Like somebody who believes in what you do.
I'd be dead without her.
And all of that. So, I mean, as a kid, you said you've always been into ghosts and folklore. I mean, what did you want to be growing up? Like, I mean,
what I'm doing now.
Again,
so you're doing what
I'm doing
that's
exactly.
But how did
amazing.
you know as a kid, right? Like as a young boy, I just thought,
I've
boys
always
are
known.
firemen.
Were there
or
experiences
policemen?
that you had growing up that you're like, I want to, because of this, I want to learn more?
Oh, of course. There were many. And there were stories that I heard and collected from people.
What was something that personally happened to you that really kind of pushed you into it a little bit more?
Okay. This is a story I've told the story a few times, and it's the best one that I can share on the topic. So I grew up on this farm in Vineyard, Utah. It was a racehorse farm, and I keep hearing conflicting numbers of how old it was before my mom and dad bought the place, and I keep hearing from 80 years old to 150 years old. So there's
quite the span.
A span to play with, but it was a very old farm that had penny copper wiring and ceramic plumbing. And I would spend a lot of time alone at night on this farm. Mm-hmm. And so, imagine, being a 7-year-old on this farm in the farmhouse. Now, on this farm, there were all manner of animals. There were barn owls lived on there. There were pheasants. There were porcupines. Even deer would hang out there. I had, big old dogs would hang out and cats. It was a farm with wild animals and everything. And it was awesome. It was heaven on earth. But imagine being home alone at night and having your glass move in front of you like this.
That'd be trippy.
You'd be a little freaked out.
And, a lot of members of my family, they also would witness things like this quite often.
As some people would say, kind of poltergeist-esque.
Poltergeist-esque. And so what I did was it started to scare me. It really freaked me out. And so one night I was home alone. I went down into the basement of this place and I said, "Look, I'm just a kid. I'm here by myself and you're scaring me. Would you please not do this when I'm here?"
You said this to the ghost,
to whatever was there,
to the great unknown.
Like I said, I don't know what it was. To whatever was there, I said that, and from that day forward, nothing happened in front of me anymore. Nothing moved. No lights were turned on when I went in front of me. I'd come home at night, and a light would be on that wasn't on before, but never again did anything happen in front of me. And there were stories that I was told that happened to other people that I can't share, but they are a little bit more
personal,
more dark that happened there. But to me, that event told me that, for one, this is a phenomenon we should not be afraid of.
And also they listen to you.
Yeah.
I know that. I was thinking that was very intuitive of you as a child to be like, maybe I should just talk to it.
This is...
Most of us wouldn't think that.
But this is, I mean, he knew he had a gift.
Yeah.
These things, and that's why I hate all of this fear-based...
That paranormal...
folklore. Like the fear-based ghost tours that you see around the country. Come and get scared nonsense. See, my ghost tour is not about fear. Mm-hmm. It's about education. The scariest part of the ghost tour is the clown story.
Oh, yeah. I saw that story on YouTube. That sounds horrifying.
And
for listeners of the podcast, just because you brought it up. I know we're going to be jumping around. I know I say this on a lot of podcasts. That's the joys of podcasts.
Exactly.
You can kind of jump around a little bit, but share this. I want you to share some of these ghost stories. So in Provo, it's at the Pioneer Park in Provo. Mm-hmm. These clowns. I'll let you take it away, Danny.
Okay, so I was. It was April of 2013, the year of our Lord, 2013, and I was driving my old green Honda, driving west on Center Street in Provo, and I just barely passed over state, and I was just driving right next to Pioneer Park, and this was about 1:30 in the morning. Now, I had just left an acquaintance's house. I was helping her with her taxes, so to speak, and I saw something walking in the park. And I stopped. I was like, what the hell is that? And I look, and I'm stopped, and there's no one else around me. Mm-hmm. And there's this clown in full regalia walking.
Did you think it was maybe a person?
Well, that's the thing. I'll get to that.
Okay, sorry.
I'll get to that. I
love clowns.
I'll tie this up. Real
I know.
nice for you.
When I heard this, I was like, "Are you sure it wasn't you, Chris?" Because he has lived in Provo and he has been a clown. Continue.
And it was walking across the park, very much like the old Patterson Sasquatch film from the 1960s from Bluff Creek. Mm-hmm. Look, just like a big stride. It stopped mid-stride and looked at me. And this was like maybe 15, 30 seconds. And then it turned. Now, this thing had the big freaking huge red clown shoes, huge, like full bodysuit, striped, had the wig, the tussles around the arms, everything.
What color hair?
It was like, I think it was red. It was dark though.
Yeah, sure.
It turns and starts walking towards me. At which point, I get out of there faster than Donald Trump from an unscripted interview. Okay? And
like that.
but there's this huge amount of folklore about phantom clowns across the nation. It started in ancient Rome. Lauren Coleman, a cryptozoologist and folklorist, he's done a lot of research on this, and it start. Well, let me get my notes real quick here so I can get the proper.
And for people that are listening right now, I know he's got a book. Danny brought a book with him full of ghost notes. Spirit notes.
Yeah, the hysteria mainly started in 1981 in Greenville, South Carolina, at the Fleetwood Apartments, August 21st in 1981. And it was during this time where people were seeing clowns during the day, and there's all this magical and dark attributes attached to glowing green eyes and hiding behind dumpsters, offering money and candy to kids, but they never caught anyone.
Yeah,
but that fear that lingered, and see. Clowns were scary before Stephen King ruined it, with the whole It thing and that.
Yeah, there was a clown back in France in the 1800s or 1700s actually killed a boy.
Yeah. See, what happened to just happy birthday party clowns, right? That's what I'm into. But
the John Wayne Gacy's the world ruined.
I still never saw it. But so what happened to the clown? The clown was looking. Did it just disappear?
I didn't wait around to see. When it started walking towards me, I bolted.
You were gone. That's
you didn't call
plan.
The police or anything?
No, I didn't know because it was my phantom clown.
It was your phantom clown,
and it could have been a person. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing. It's terrifying.
But that would be horrifying.
It's terrifying no matter what. If it's a person at 1:30 in the morning walking through Pioneer Park dressed in full clown regalia, it's terrifying. If it was a phantom clown walking through the park at 1:30 in the morning in full regalia, it's terrifying. Either way, you have a fear-inducing encounter.
Sure. I mean, you wouldn't want it. I mean, again, like you said, you wouldn't want to stick around to see what the clown is going to do. Maybe it will kill you.
For sure.
I've gone back several times.
Maybe it would make you laugh. Who knows?
I've gone back several times around that time to look for this clown by myself and with other people. Never again have I seen it.
Wow.
But that's my phantom clown story, and that's the scariest story on my tour because it's just the clown aspect.
Let's jump right into the original Provo Utah Ghost Tour that you organized, right? You put it together. You're the leader, the tour
I built
master.
it. It's my baby.
When did it start? When was the idea?
I'd been collecting these stories my whole life.
Sure. Yeah. But when did the tour start? When did the idea
2011.
start? 2011.
With my students.
Your students at UVU, because you were a professor there.
And I would always have multiple extracurricular activities off campus where, I would take all my students or wherever wanted to go on, a folklore tour, a ghost tour, a fairy tour. But I had this one special event every semester for my students and their families and kids if they had them to just, I'd give them a free ghost tour. And it was always fun. Like there was just 100 or so people would show up. I felt like Moses.
Well, I saw videos of it on YouTube. You were sending me over some links, which I'll link up with this at iamsaltlake.com. But I mean, you had a crowd.
Oh yeah. And it's because and my tour, there's no fluff. I don't dress up. I don't have any effects bull crap. The stories speak for themselves. I don't need any of this crap. I don't need makeup because the stories are real. And I have hand collected every single story on my tour. There's no Google. No nonsense. No.
You actually go and talk to people who have gone through experiences?
Now, do you go inside the buildings too?
If they'll let me.
If they'll let you.
If they'll let me, absolutely.
Do most of these places let you?
A lot of them have been very cooperative. The City Limits Bar has been very cooperative and let me go down at their basement to go hang out with Shaky Jake, the ghost of Shaky Jake, bless his heart. They love him. There's no fear. He likes to tease the ladies. And they're promising me, they've told me that they have film footage of Shaky Jake throwing a shot glass across the bar, but I still haven't seen it yet.
Oh wow!
But I'm hoping they'll show it to me. But I've gone down there and it's creepy.
With your ghost tour, you've gone down?
by myself.
Oh, by yourself.
No, I usually have kids on the tour, so we can't go in. I tell the story outside, but they let me go down there and investigate a few things. And there's TaylorMade on Center Street. They've got a really interesting kind of spirit going on there. I've gone up in the attic and. Funny, BYU Universe, their newspaper wrote an article about me a couple years ago. We did a little photo shoot up there with them. If BYU only knew who they were interviewing, I swear. But there's.
Did you go to BYU at all?
I've been on campus.
Well, yeah.
Oh, there you go.
I've been on campus. I didn't know if you spent any time there.
I've had a lot of mentors that have taught there and really important people in my life, and that's the thing. I would be nowhere without the help of some very intelligent, very smart people. I owe my intellect. I owe my superior intellect.
So when do you do these tours? These tours are only in the month of October?
No, I do them all year long.
So could the average person, say, who's listening right now, reach out to you and say, give me a tour, give me one of your ghost tours? Could they do that?
Of course.
It's a walking tour.
It's correct? A walking tour.
Okay.
And in October, I do a lot of advertising, and I have scheduled weekends for my tour. But throughout the rest of the year, you just we go to my Facebook page, the Original Provo Ghost Tour, Danny B. Stewart, and contact me, and we'll set something up. It's a 2-hour walking tour, so no complaining, but
it's good exercise, and if the weather's nice.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
And
is there a special time of the day that it's the best, though?
Well, at night, obviously, but I mean, there are other little tours I do. But I only take small groups. Usually my ghost tours have 30 or 40 during October, and I've done smaller groups, which is fine. But
sounds like a birthday party. That'd be fun for a birthday party. Or
I've done I have a fairy tour.
Where's that at?
It's in Provo.
It's in Provo.
It's around Columbia Lane. There's a 1 mile radius right on Columbia Lane going west that has some real magical stuff going on, real interesting stuff going on there that I've been looking at and collecting information about for about 15 years. And I've interviewed a lot of people. I've found a lot of people that have encountered the vortex.
Yeah. What is the Provo vortex?
Oh, I love this thing. So this is my baby. And I'm so pleased that I've found people that have experienced this too. And I stumbled upon it by accident once. And so you get on the Provo River Trail right by Macy's, the Macy's grocery store.
Yeah.
And you walk west and you try to make your way to Lions Park. Now, the best time to do this is the day before, day of, or day after the full moon. I've noticed, but you can do it. And then usually after midnight. And like I say, I have multiple witnesses that have been with me when this has happened and people who have done this separately. And you'll just be walking along the trail and you'll be heading down and you might get off the trail and walk in the neighborhood trying to head over to Lions Park. And all of a sudden you're down by Provo College. You're like down by the freeway.
It's like a wormhole?
Yeah. Huh. And you can't explain why. Like you don't feel anything. You don't get disoriented. There's no feeling to it. It's just 1 minute you're walking along the trail or you're walking in the neighborhood by Columbia Lane. You make one turn and then you're down by the freeway or Provo College, down that one area. It keeps taking down. I have this one story of this couple who one night in April, they were on the trail walking around trying to go to Lions Park, which has its own amazing stories also. And they kept finding themselves off the beaten path and trying to find their way back. Mm-hmm. And it really took them, like they said, like 2 hours of going around in circles and finding themselves back in the same spot they were before or near it or down by the freeway. It basically sets you farther west. And they had that, listen, we're sick of this. Can you stop playing jokes on us? We want to go home now. We're tired.
Yeah.
And finally, whatever it was, allowed them to find their way home by one turn. There's people that have come on my ghost tour, and I talk about this at the very end of my ghost tour, and they're like, this happened to me too.
How crazy. Do you document it when people tell you?
Oh yeah, I have all this stuff written down.
That's awesome.
And
we need to actually take a really fast break here, play a message from our sponsors, but we have a lot more to ask Danny, so hang tight after this message. All right, it's that time of the podcast where we take a few minutes of your time and tell you about our awesome sponsors. These are some great local businesses that are helping keep this podcast going, so please support them in everything that they have going on. Hey, this episode of the podcast is sponsored by Market Source Real Estate, which I want Chrissy to tell you about.
You guys, if you love the charm and character of old homes, you need to contact our friends Monique and Jeremy Higginson of Market Source Real Estate. They're based in Sugar House, and for the last 17 years, they've been specializing in helping people buy and sell homes in the Sugar House and Greater Salt Lake area. They have a background of flipping houses, and they've owned almost 24 homes themselves, so they know all the ins and outs of older homes. If you're looking to sell your home, Market Source Real Estate specializes in helping sellers update or repair their homes to increase their value and make sellers more money. And Chris and I actually walked through one of the homes that they were helping a seller with last weekend.
Over in Taylorsville.
Yes, and we legit wanted to buy that house, but they already had an offer on it.
We're like, can we put an offer?
By the time we got there for the open house, they had an offer, so we were bummed out. But you got to get a hold of these guys. If you love older houses like we do, you don't want to end up buying a money pit. You can find their info at thinksaltlakecity.com today or call 801-810-6773.
This episode of the podcast is also sponsored by Five Wives Vodka. If you're in Texas, you can drink Tito's, but if you're in Salt Lake City, you better be drinking Five Wives Vodka. They actually have 3 different flavors for you to try out, which I want to tell you about today. They have the original Five Wives Vodka, which is made from Utah mountain spring water. It's 100% distilled corn spirit, and it's gluten-free. The spring is hidden up in beautiful Ogden Canyon, which is inaccessible by vehicle, so the water is hiked out 5 gallons at a time. Why don't you tell them about the Five Wives Sinful?
Five Wives Sinful is a flavored vodka with a delicious cinnamon taste. Unlike other cinnamon products that give you that cinnamon candy taste, Sinful is like a morning cinnamon roll with only 76 calories per ounce.
There's also the Five Wives Heavenly, which is a flavored vodka with a delicious vanilla taste. Heavenly's rich, buttery vanilla flavor comes through without coating your taste buds with sugar, and this results in more vanilla and less calories. So I think regardless of which flavor you get of Five Wives, you can't go wrong.
You really can't go wrong, because I know I've tried them all.
Your friends are going to love you for bringing it over to the party, for the get-together, if you just want a night alone with a bottle of Five Wives.
That's okay, too, and you're supporting local.
FiveWivesVodka.com is their website where you can find out more about the products, recipes, all that good stuff. You can find them at any of your local DABCs, which is your local state liquor store. And many thanks again to Five Wives Vodka and Market Source Real Estate for sponsoring this episode of the podcast. So let's talk a little bit about Salt Lake City, supernatural, ghosts. We were talking about the Provo Ghost Tour, which I'll put that link obviously on your Facebook page at iamsaltlake.com. And then, but let's talk a little bit about Salt Lake City, North Temple.
Oh, yeah.
So there's an article in Utah Stories, which, I don't know, half a dozen episodes ago, we had Richard Marcosian on from Utah Stories, which I would like to talk to you a little bit about your writing with Utah Stories. Are you still writing for them, right?
Well, I'm just a contributor.
How many articles have you written?
I think like 5 or 6. I'm working on one about the Salamander letters.
Okay.
With Mark Hoffman. Yeah. I'm putting one together on the Vortex we just spoke about, and one on Fairy Folk of Provo, Utah. And are these articles online right now? The ones that have been published, they all are right now.
So what I'll do is I'll get all of those linked up with this episode too, so people that are listening can go to iamsaltlake.com with this episode, because I want them to connect with you, Danny. You have so many awesome stories, and I know we're not going to even get to all of them today, but North Temple. Tell me about North Temple here, buddy.
Well, when I moved to Salt Lake City, my spider sense started to tingle. So I moved on to North Temple, which, and I say this with much affection, after 1 a.m., North Temple turns into the movie Escape from New York.
What do you mean by that?
Watch the movie. You'll know what I mean.
I don't know if I've ever seen that movie.
I've never seen that movie, but I can imagine.
Sorry.
Okay, as your attorney, I would advise you to go home immediately after this and watch Escape from New York.
You know what we're doing tonight, Chris?
All right, I'm on it.
But I spent about 3 weeks roaming around after midnight on North Temple, almost dying, almost getting mugged, almost getting attacked by the night people, by the violent vagrants of North Temple, looking for ghost stories. Because Mestizo Cafe, where I tend to hang out and do some writing, they came to me and told me about their ghost inside of, which I write about in the Utah Stories article, of Mestizo. And I got the idea, you know what, there's something going on here. I'll bet you there's something going on farther down North Temple. And lo and behold, there was. So for about 3 weeks, and it was 3 very stupid weeks, because in hindsight, I wanted to, I got the crazy idea I was going to create a ghost tour on North Temple. But then I got to thinking, I'm going to need a lot of security to do this.
It's a little scarier down that way than Provo.
Yeah. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to write about it. Mm-hmm. So, but it was fun while I was doing it, because I talked to the vagrants and asked them stories. And, you know, I really can't say how reliable their stories were. A lot of them wouldn't talk to me, but the same 2 words kept coming up over and over again. It was shadow people. Now, I don't know if you're all familiar with
the vagrants were telling you about the shadow people.
Yeah, shadow people. And some of them wouldn't go into any detail. They just, there's shadow people here. I don't want to talk about the shadow people. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm on to something. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I finally got a couple, a man and woman. They told me about how they saw this, that they thought they saw someone dead in the road, right by the intersection close to the main entrance of where the 7-Eleven and where the State Fair Park is. And they said we thought he was dead, but the person sat up without any trouble, without using its arms, and then floated across the road into the gates that led to the main entrance of the State Fair Park.
Oh, geez.
And they said that was a shadow person. And there's another story I need to go back and do some more digging on, but I talked to one of the managers of the Arctic Circle who said that they can hear voices arguing in the back room during Christmas time.
Those are some very festive ghosts.
Right. But
so do you just go into these places and you say, hey, Arctic Circle people, do you hear any weird stuff going on in here?
Well, the same thing I did, I've done my whole life. I go and to ask people, look, is there anything that you want to tell me? Are there any strange stories, any interesting stories? What kind of stories? Like about, the funny, the bomb we found, the old bomb we found underneath the building in the old warehouse locker or what? And I was like, well, anything a little bit more out of the ordinary. Something like ghost stories? Oh, yeah. And they will start telling me their ghost stories.
And do you how do you identify yourself? Just as a storyteller?
I'm the owner-operator of the original Provo Ghost Tour. I'm collecting these stories to write about. That's my main problem. My biggest, if I have a fault, my fault is I'm a little too unorganized with all of my research, and I have a hard time.
I think most creative people are, though,
I think
right?
That's,
like we're a little unorganized.
Because I'm working on like 3 books, and I want to ask for some help from the audience from one of them in a minute. But like I'm working on a book about Utah folklore and Utah ghost stories, which I want to compile all of the stuff I've found into it. The Provo fairy lore, all the other ghost stories, the winged monkey that was up on Edgemont by Edgemont Cemetery in Provo.
What is this now? The winged monkey. Tell us about this, Danny. Don't leave us hanging.
Up by Edgemont. Yeah. I used to live up near there.
Did you really?
Yeah.
And all these stories that I have, like the funnest thing that people that find hardest to believe is how much, I'm not saying that this is the actual case, but if you base it on the stories I've collected, Provo has a very large population of fairy folk.
And why do you think that is?
I don't know, but I've met so many people who have claimed that they've seen gnomes, sylphs, undines,
What kind of, what, is there a specific story that if people really brought detailed stories to you?
Oh, of course. Many detailed stories. And just like there was this park up on Columbia Lane near an elementary school where this couple in the April of 2013 is a weird year, they were going for a walk, and they walked into the park area of this, the soccer field area of this school, and during this time there was a small little garden right next to the school. It was like a student garden or something, very small, probably no bigger than this room. What is maybe like 12 by 12 or something? I don't know.
It's not much bigger than that. Maybe 12 by 12, 13. And
my former euphemism I was with, she says, "What is that?" Oh my gosh, I just gave it away. Shit, we got to edit that out. It was me.
It was you that saw it?
But there was something inside of the garden.
Okay.
Digging.
Okay.
That I can't explain what it was.
Let's talk about these books before we forget. These books that you're writing and that you need the audience's help for.
Yes.
The listeners of I Am Salt Lake.
Yes.
What do you need here, Danny? Let's reach out to our listeners.
I am writing a book about the imaginary friend, asking the question, what does it mean to be a child and have an imaginary friend? Not looking at it from a psychological approach or a scientific approach, but I'm looking at this asking, what if the imaginary friend is not all that imaginary?
Like the imaginary friend we had growing up.
Yes.
It's been a while since I've talked to mine.
These
Oh yeah?
These are entities, this is a product of imagination, a product of reality, a product of whatever that children and people have all over the globe.
Sure.
It seems like children are very attuned to that kind of stuff, because you do hear a lot of stories of children talking to ghosts or supernatural, entities, that there's a lot of actual things that happen that prove that maybe it's not an imaginary friend. Maybe there's something really going on.
Yeah. And I need to collect as many stories from as many people as I can. I need to talk to people who have had imaginary friends, people with children who have imaginary friends, brothers, sisters, fathers, mothers, grandparents, etc., who have experience with a loved one or a friend that have had imaginary friends. And I'm looking at this from 4 basic subsections. The imaginary friend as the Holy Ghost. The imaginary friend as a deceased loved one. The imaginary friend as fairy folk. And the fourth, which really isn't kind of applicable here, but I'm still researching this because I've only collected a few, but I'm fascinated with the idea. There are stories coming out of the South of children going in the wilderness and playing with imaginary friends and coming back and telling their parents, I played with my friend today, and their parents always shrug it off, and the whole summer go through and come back. I met my friend's parents today. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, really? What did they? Who were their names? Well, they didn't talk to me. Well, what they look like? Well, they were big and they were hairy. So, like stories of children playing with juvenile Sasquatch.
Yeah, interesting.
And I want to find some type of truth with an asterisk to the imaginary friend.
Yeah,
and I want to compile this
into a book. And
I've collected several.
That'd be I would read that.
Where should they, like an email address, Danny?
Yeah,
what do you got?
Please email me at stewieblue@hotmail.com. I'm sure you guys can put that up on the.
Spell that for
STEWIEBALOOIE @hotmail.com, or just go to my Facebook page, Danny B. Stewart, or the original Provo Utah Ghost Tour, and message me.
And I'll even put the email address up with this episode.
And I'd really appreciate it. You guys be helping out with a topic that's been untouched and needs to be talked about.
Yeah.
How many stories are you looking for? How many stories?
As many as I can get.
As many as you can get. Hundreds, and it just depends on how long they are.
I would shift through them. I mean, this is going to be a full documentation book.
That'd be awesome.
It's going to be a combination of theories and of stories. It's going to be kind of in the tradition of William Butler Yeats and his fairy tradition stories. Just kind of stories of
different experiences.
And then
I wish I had a childhood imaginary friend. I feel like I missed out. All the other kids
just
that
had My Buddy doll.
I had the kid sister.
Yeah.
Oh, they were great. But
Teddy
they were
Ruxpin.
real.
You remember
Teddy
Ruxpin?
Yes.
With the cassette tape in there.
Actually, I did. When I was a teenager, I worked in it was an insane asylum originally. And,
like an old mental hospital.
It was an old mental hospital, and they redid it to be, a business park. And when we moved up, we worked in the lower section, which I think was the mortuary for a while. And then when we moved up to the 5th floor, there were stories that the 5th floor was haunted. And I used to work late and close down the building, and I would hear the elevator going and footsteps while I was working, and there was no one there but me.
Now, Danny, this is in Wisconsin.
Scary.
So don't get excited that this is in Utah.
But I am I believe in that stuff, man.
There's something going on.
Yeah.
I see, and I'm kind of torn. I don't know if I believe in ghosts or not, right? Like, I'm just kind of like,
I don't know if it's necessarily ghosts, but there's definitely
person, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You don't have to be, but you have to understand that there are.
So you think you can be a non-religious person and believe in ghosts?
Absolutely. I'm not religious. I consider myself very spiritual, but I'm not. I don't belong to any religion.
When you think about it, I mean, the spiritual side is really just an energy, right? If you look at it from an energy perspective.
Well, that's one way to look at it, of course. And there's so many different ways to look at it. That's the thing. There is something going on.
Yeah.
And we can't explain what it is. We're never going to know. I don't think we will ever know, because the way technology, all of the hoaxers, all of the fakers, all the people do it for publicity.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if we find the clearest, greatest, undisputed photograph of Bigfoot. We'll never be able to prove it's real because of all of today's technology, the fake everything. We'll never be able to. And same with ghosts. When I go out looking for things, I don't use any of this bullcrap technology. Like those television shows. Like I've been approached by 7 different production companies, and it had interviews to have my own television show. And I still want it to hint. I'm still trying to do my television show. So Mr. Rogers Meets Unsolved Mysteries starring me, people. Come on, throw me some money. Anyway.
You should do a podcast, Danny.
They, all these television shows always let you down. They go out and look for something and they never find anything.
Right. Yeah.
Because the way that they do these investigations, I think, and it's my opinion, that they half-ass it a lot, and it's all about fluff.
Right. Yeah. I agree with that a lot.
And I never use any of this bullcrap technology stuff. It's just, if I take small groups out to look for something, it's a non-story based tour. If you see something, cool, you just keep your eyes open, you know, and Don't
it's
expect
really about
anything,
personal experience,
and
right?
Either, and I don't know who said this first, and I'm butchering this quote. I heard it somewhere many, many, many years ago, but it kind of goes like this. There are some certain things going on right now. One, everyone's lying. Every single story involving a strange creature or, a ghost or a UFO or something, everyone's lying. Everyone's crazy. Every person that thinks they've seen something is completely nuts, or they're completely mistaken on what they saw, or there's something very legitimate and real going on that we can't explain. Or it could be a combination of all those, but
Definitely a combination. I'm going to agree with you there.
But the thing is, look at how many Sasquatch footprints we have found across the globe, and in how many years.
But yet people are still out to say it's not real.
If just one of those is real, and I think I'm kind of quoting Grover Krantz or someone when I say this. If just one of them is real, we're onto something.
Mm-hmm. Even if it's just an undiscovered species.
Yeah.
Do you think they're trying to hide something from us? Do you think like the government is trying to hide something from us?
There's two things I won't touch.
Hairy clowns.
I won't touch conspiracy theories, and I won't touch UFOs.
Interesting.
Ooh, no
Interesting.
UFOs, huh?
See, I
won't touch
I'm
UFOs
curious
with a
about
10-foot anal probe.
Why? Because you don't want them to come down and anal probe you.
Because it's been ruined. The field of ufology has been ruined. It's all full of hacks and kooks.
Everything's kind of been ruined at this point, but if there is still some experiences to be had, I think it's more of a personal thing, and it is about the storytelling.
But see, it's not even a word. The acronym UFO automatically means alien, extraterrestrial, out of this world. It means unidentified flying object. It doesn't mean it's from outer space. It means
could be a sugar glider.
Yeah. I've seen, I've seen numerous UFOs in my lifetime. I can't explain what they were. I'm not saying they're extraterrestrial. I sure hope they were, but there are things I can't explain.
Yeah.
But I can be taken more seriously standing in front of a group of 300 people talking about fairy folk than I can talking about UFOs. Why is that? I don't know, but that's my experience, and I won't touch UFOs ever.
Do you believe in aliens?
I believe in extraterrestrial life. Absolutely.
Yeah, but you just won't touch it.
I won't.
Interesting.
That's fair.
So have you written any books yet then, or you're still back to the book
like I
thing?
said, I'm just
collecting.
I'm just writing and collecting, and I'm ready.
You've collected a lot from what we see. You've a lot of notes and stories and lectures.
So besides all of the things we've talked about, the ghosts and spirits and Bigfoot and all, what are your other hobbies and interests, Danny? Do you have anything else that keeps you busy, or is that pretty much what keeps you busy?
I'm a bibliophile. I collect books.
Yeah.
And I read, and I
what's the best book you've ever written, or not
ever
written, read? Ugh.
Same thing, right?
Yeah. I mean, or is that kind of a tough
the most
quote?
important book?
Yeah, what's the most important
I've ever read? Well, the most important book I ever read was The Odyssey.
Okay.
By Homer.
Okay.
And I read that when I was 7.
Wow.
It's a staple.
And but only because I'm so proud of reading it that young. That's why. But really, the most important book, it'd be like 3 books, which are my Desert Island books. The Secret Teachings of All Ages by Manly Palmer Hall. On the Track of Unknown Animals by Dr. Bernard Hoovelman, the father of cryptozoology. And The Odyssey.
All right. Here's a question I've been kind of eager to ask you, because I bet you might have a good one here. If you could do a Skype call with any living person, who would it be and why? Anybody you want, Danny.
Any person, any living person.
I'll even let you pick a dead person here, Danny.
A dead person?
There's so many more interesting dead people.
Yeah. I'll let you. I'll make an exception for you.
Rudolf Steiner.
Who's that?
Google will tell me.
Rudolf Steiner.
I would have an interview with Rudolf Steiner.
Who is that?
He was a critic of theosophy. He was a thinker, a philosopher of the Romantic period, 1800s. He wrote about nature spirits. He was the very important founder of the Waldorf studies, education. The guy, and I would just love to talk with him about philosophy and fairies.
If somebody was visiting Salt Lake City, say they're coming this upcoming weekend and they don't know where to go, what to do, is there anything you would tell them to do or check out?
I'd go see the the sacred sites. Gilgal Garden, for one.
Oh, I love that. Does that place have any scary stories?
I haven't done any research there. There's so many people that are working with that.
I could see fairy folk living there.
That is such a weird place.
I love that place.
There are a lot of people that are already working on that. That's their baby.
Stay away.
I stay away from that. I try not to touch stuff that a lot of people are already working on.
Why is that?
Because I respect other people's work and I respect originality. And I like I said, everything I do, I've collected has not been uttered from other lips for the most part.
So down in Provo, you don't think there's any other ghost people like yourself?
Oh, there are people that think they are.
Think they're the paranormal investigators.
But the thing is though, like I said, I do things completely differently.
Sure.
And when I do my lectures, I mix humor and philosophy. Like when every lecture I do, my goal is to make people think I'm nuts at the beginning. To think I'm completely
That's a fun game.
off my rocker.
Why do you do that?
How do you reel them back in?
Yeah.
By showing them
No, you're not.
that I'm not.
He's not nuts.
Oh.
And when for example, my unicorn lecture, it got me hired at Utah University as an adjunct instructor, talking about unicorns. And I show how unicorns are real using, other people's research that I've collected, like Oberon's O. Ravenheart and Morning Glory de Kirk, these self-proclaimed wizard, and who took the research of Dr. Franklin Dove, who started learning how to manipulate horn buds and animals. And I built a cool theory about it and made a really entertaining lecture. I've found almost 87 different types of unicorns. How come do we only ever hear about one? 87 different types of unicorns across the globe. And unicorns are so fascinating, but everyone just knows about the white einhorn unicorn. But like at the beginning of my lecture, I'm going to say, I'm going to prove to you unicorns are real, living, breathing animals on this planet today. And they're scoffing, they're looking at this guy's nuts. And then at the end, they're like, holy crap, this guy was right. And that's what I do. I use art as a context clue.
Yeah.
When I was teaching Utah University, my favorite thing to teach would be the Romantic period, because it was the origin of contemporary horror, and show the chronology and the movement of scary stories, and how Bram Stoker and Mary Shelley and other like authors come up with these interesting, like, what makes people write or create this. There are events. Context is so important in art, and that's why I miss teaching a lot, and I'd like to go back to teach again someday.
Let's talk about favorite local eating spots. I know it's kind of a silly question, but I ask this everybody who comes on the podcast. I like to know where they stuff their face.
Shanghai Cafe.
Oh gosh, that is good food, isn't it? Though I haven't been there for a minute because of some things I've changed in my diet, but they got good food.
You're doing the keto thing.
I'm doing the keto thing.
You're mad. That scares the crap out of me.
The keto diet does?
I just can't eat that much bacon.
Oh, you don't have to eat a lot of bacon. It really isn't that much bacon. You can.
I just.
Well, what do you get at Shanghai Cafe? You get the tofu.
I love their vegetarian menu.
The vegetarian menu is amazing.
Vegetarian fried egg rolls. Forget about it. Oh my God. They're amazing.
It's tough to get a glass of water there, though, isn't it? Do you notice the service there is a little rough? It is.
But is it worth it for the food?
That's the thing, though. Yeah,
it's kind of their signature.
That makes them so endearing. And I know exactly what you mean. But the food makes up for it.
Oh, yeah.
I've never had a negative experience there food-wise.
Yeah.
Service-wise, but
does that really matter when the food is so good?
I joke around with that at everybody because everybody knows exactly what I'm talking about with Shanghai.
Shanghai Cafe is my gastronomical utopia. I would eat there every single day if
Have
my
you
girlfriend
eaten there, Chrissy?
I've never eaten there, and I want to eat there so bad right now.
No.
Clearly a lot.
Right up your alley. You would love the food there.
I know.
We're at least going to go get some takeout there.
It sounds like the waitress and waitressing is like a ghost town.
Well, no. One time years ago, I was with some friends and we didn't leave a tip, and I remember they kicked us out of there, and you don't come back.
Are you serious?
Yeah, anyway, what's your
the vegetarian vermicelli noodles? glass noodles. Those
at Shanghai
Cafe.
Never had them.
Oh my gosh, this huge bowl of soup and noodles and like fake meat. You
That
can get the
sounds
regular
wonderful.
meat too, but
Yeah, but the fake meats there is delicious.
and it comes with a little side plate of like these sprouts and this lettuce and jalapenos and lime.
So is it kind of like pho?
It's no.
Ish? No. Okay.
It's
No.
no. It's an event.
Excuse me.
It's not fun. It's an event, Chrissy.
This eating at Shanghai Cafe is an event.
Oh, it really is.
Look at my face. This is how giddy I
you
get
look really
thinking
happy.
about
And the thing
it.
is it's a legit place, and everybody has to go there. That's why, even though at the time of this recording, I'm not eating there, but
you
I'm going to
can still take me.
I'm going to take Chrissy there.
I'll eat anything.
As we kind of wrap this up, Danny, I know you probably have 10 million things that you still want to talk about. I definitely want to bring you back through the podcast.
Cool.
Because there's a lot more ghost stories I want to talk about with you. Is there anything you want to make sure on this recording that we say besides, obviously I want people to get in touch with you. I want people to take these ghost tours. Chrissy and I need to take this ghost tour from you.
Yeah, we do.
I'm working on a project right now, which is probably going to coincide with my ghost tour.
Okay.
With my new buddy, Andrew Kosorek. I hope I'm not butchering his last name, but he's this genius glass artist who approached me on LinkedIn about doing a project that he wanted to do. He'd been trying to get someone interested in it for years. And we need help with this project. And basically we need help with equipment and anyone that wants to participate. What we're going to do is we're going to find a haunted space with an asterisk in Provo somewhere, or Salt Lake, wherever's the best. We can do this and set up camera equipment. We want a couple infrared cameras. We want some regular cameras playing, recording on a 24-hour basis for a couple weeks, and have a second location where we would have an exhibit. And we're going to have these television screens streaming what we're filming in this haunted with an asterisk place, kind of depicting the mundaneness, sometimes pointlessness of a ghost hunt, and most times nothing will happen.
Right.
But people can come into our exhibit, and I want to ask for artists who are interested in doing a few maybe a performance on the weekend, some type of poetry or ghost story or something. I'm going to be doing a ghost story of some kind, but also some visual art to have in the venue also. But the main attraction will be this the mundaneness of a ghost hunt and a constant filming of this second location. And we're trying to as every artist knows, the hardest part of getting a project together is getting the utilities we need. And if anyone's interested in helping out with this,
reach out to you.
Reach out to us. And
will you be recording it just in case something unique does happen?
Oh, of course, we'll be recording, but we'll be playing too.
Right.
But that's the thing, like those television shows that like Ghost Hunters.
Do you watch a lot of that stuff?
I would rather die.
What about Ghostbusters?
Oh, like the movie?
Yeah, the movie.
I love the movie. That's different, though.
The movie's
that is the best movie.
The thing is everybody who's been listening to this podcast all along, all they can think about is, does Danny like Ghostbusters? What are his thoughts on Bill Murray?
The movie, the question I get a lot is, what movie is most like reality?
Okay, what is?
The Changeling.
I have not seen that yet.
Not that one with that
not
one.
Not the one with the redhead?
Not the one with that one girl always wears a shirt, married to Johnny or Brad Pitt. What's her name?
Oh, Angelina Jolie.
Not that one. The older one from like the 70s, The Changeling. Can you Google what year that was in?
Yeah, The Changeling. I'm on it. I'm all over Google,
Chrissy.
you guys.
Interesting. So that's the most. What about The Exorcist? I've heard that's pretty good.
It's
1980.
a great movie. Yeah, the 1980 Changeling, in my opinion, is the closest to reality of any ghost movie you can find. But
Changelings, that's a whole interesting folklore of its own too. Mm-hmm. Man,
how can people connect with you? I guess we'll put the links for all that stuff that you've been mentioning, the Provo Ghost Tour, your Facebook.
Yeah, feel free to contact me through Facebook.
Do you have a website? No.
I used to, but the guy who ran it kind of went nuts, so I lost it. And it's kind of easier for me not to have a website because
you don't have to maintain anything.
I barely know how to save to disk. And so I know how to use Facebook, so it's worked for me so far. I'd like to have a real website, but the whole maintenance aspect of it, I couldn't maintain that if my life depended on it.
Well, I've had a heck of a conversation. Do you feel pretty good about this conversation?
Not just good. I feel good enough.
All right. Anything you want to ask him, Chrissy, really fast? Are we good?
Oh, I think I'm good. We got some great conversation. Thank you so much.
Can I say something to the audience and you guys?
Absolutely.
A fun date night.
Yes, let's hear a fun date night.
Go to Vineyard City, very close to Orem. There is if you're coming from Salt Lake, get off the Center Street and Orem exit, and then immediately turn west and hit Geneva Road. Then turn south, and then you'll hit 400 South. Turn right there, and you'll head into you'll see this huge sports park. That's not the park. Keep driving west past that park, and you'll go to you'll be forced to turn right, and then you'll be heading north, and maybe like a little under a quarter mile, you'll see this ruined, I think it's the Vineyard Town Hall Park. Go there day before, day of, or day after a full moon, after midnight. Go to the far west side. No, I haven't been here in a while because I'm kind of irritated of what's happening to Vineyard, but the park is still there. Go to the far west end and whistle. And that's all I'm going to say.
Sounds like fun.
Sounds like a good place to end the podcast. Thank you so much, Danny.
Awesome. Thank you.
You bet. All righty. Many thanks again to Danny B. Stewart for coming on this episode of the podcast. What a great story.
You know, I wish we had more time to kind of pick his brain because after we stopped recording, he came over to me and he said, go to YouTube and type in real unicorns. And so we did. And he showed me this video. It's called Real Unicorns by the Unicorn Keepers on YouTube. And they're freaking goat unicorns.
That's what I was going to say. Weren't they like little baby goats?
They're real. Yeah. And they're bred to have one horn, and they're so cute, and I want one, and you have to go check it out.
Let's put that link up with all the other links for this at iamsaltlake.com/325 for episode 325. This is where you can connect with Danny B. Stewart. I want him to start doing some ghost tours up here in Salt Lake City.
Oh, yeah.
I don't really care about Provo. I mean, I don't want to have to go down to Provo.
Such a drive.
You know, it's so close. It really is.
I know it is.
We act like Provo is this faraway land in a different world.
We're kind of spoiled, though. Everything's close here.
But reach out to Danny and let him know you heard him on the podcast. I thought he had some great stories. I'd love to bring him back on the podcast. Hey, you know, I've said this time and time again. People are always hitting me up. They're saying, Chris, I want to start a podcast. How do I do it? It's not as hard as you think, but one of the biggest important things is where you host your audio for a podcast. We've been doing I Am Salt Lake podcast coming on 6 years. I've hosted the entire time with Libsyn.com. This is where all the big dogs host their audio. I mean, you have Mark Maron host with Libsyn, Joe Rogan hosts with Libsyn. And so I was like, I want to follow in the steps of Libsyn. They got great prices, but we have a promo code that you can use as a listener and get yourself a free month with Libsyn. The promo code is Salt Lake, all one word, just Salt Lake. Type that in. It's going to give you a month off with Libsyn at Libsyn.com.
That way you can try out a podcast for a month and see if you even like it before you have to pay.
No strings attached. It shows all the stats, your download numbers, and all that easy stuff. But, hey, we got a couple of Facebook reviews, which I want Chrissy to read the first one here from Anna Laura Brown. But if you haven't left us a review yet, head on over to our Facebook page by going to iamsaltlake.com/Facebook. This is going to take you to our Facebook page, just forward you. Where you can leave a review. But why don't you read this one here from Anna Laura Brown, Chrissy?
Yeah, so Anna Laura Brown was on the episode about the
tour buses.
The US bus Utah.
Yeah.
And she left us a review. I love this podcast. Okay, so I'm a bit biased because I was one of the guests along with my company owner in the episode that was released today. However, Chris and Chrissy do such a great job with interviewing people.
Aww.
I've listened to a handful of other episodes and plan to listen to more. You can learn so much about the things that even I as a Salt Lake lifer didn't know about and gain insights as to why people do what they do. A very interesting listen for anyone who lives in Salt Lake, visits Salt Lake, or wants to.
Hey, thank you so much, Anna Laura.
You.
I mean, that, wow. And we didn't even pay her to say that. We got another one here from Brandon Hill, which he's one of the sponsors, Mountain Standard Time Marketing, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And great guy. Anyway, he wrote, Chris and Chrissy do an excellent job showcasing the uniqueness of SLC in residence. It's like a fun Humans of Salt Lake show. that also gives you great places to visit, eat, drink, and more. Highly suggested to anyone visiting or currently living in Utah. You know what I love about both of these, Chrissy? Is when I started this podcast, I was originally just like, okay, I'm going to do this podcast for people in Salt Lake. Slowly, I'm realizing a lot of people listen outside of Salt Lake.
Well, it's an interesting place, you know? I've heard Joe Rogan on his podcast talking about how much he loves Salt Lake.
Oh, yeah.
It's a fascinating place.
Which goes into the email I want to read here, which was from, it's a follow-up from, I believe, was it on the last episode that we talked about the listener from Poland that found us on YouTube, which is fascinating to me. He wrote, Dear Chris, I want to really thank you for your last episode. I was listening it right before I went to sleep, and I was so surprised when you read my email that I couldn't sleep for a while. And that was completely fine because you really did make my day. You guys are amazing. And back to the podcast. Jerry's project seems like a really cool idea. This hop on, hop off idea. It seems like a really convenient way of sightseeing. And thanks to you, it landed on my totally must-do list along with sunsets on Antelope Island. He's talking about the tour buses
with Rob,
with Anna Laura.
Oh,
Jerry.
with Anna Laura. I was thinking also go take pictures with Rob Doherty.
Oh yeah, but Antelope Island.
Yeah.
So I'm waiting with excitement for a new episode, and then his name, I'm gonna butcher it again here, Masij, and then he says, P.S. Masij is a male name, and I believe it can be translated as English Matthias. And fun fact is that in Polish, it is super easy to tell gender by name because all female names ends with a letter A. I had no idea. And actually, I'm Polish. I have Polish.
You should have known that.
I have Polish blood. PPS, if you ever would be by any chance in Poland, then give me a sign and we could be his guest.
Oh man, that would be so much fun.
I mean, we have listeners in Ireland. We have Peter from the Sod Show over there in Ireland, which he said we can stay with him. And then now we have Poland, and then we have Nikki and John over in New Zealand.
It's time to make a world tour, man.
But
what? I'm going to butcher your name too, but Masij, if I'm pronouncing it incorrectly, I apologize. But you said that Chris made your day, but you really made our day.
Oh, I love emails like
Getting
this.
An email like this just makes everything worth it.
I love finding out how people find the podcast, what they enjoy about the podcast. You know, whatever their ideas are of, like you, if you come to Salt Lake to the tour bus in Antelope Island, stuff like that. Send us an email, hello@iamsaltlake.com. That will just go right to us and we'll read it on a future episode. All right. That's going to do it for this episode of the podcast. Many thanks again to our sponsors, Five Wives Vodka and Market Source Real Estate. Make sure to go visit them and support them. Use them. If you're selling a home here in Salt Lake City, Monique and Jeremy are great people.
They really are.
Support them, Market Source Real Estate. And next time you're at your local liquor store, your local state liquor store here in Utah, make sure to pick up a bottle of Five Wives Vodka. Hey, if you're interested in sponsoring an episode or two of the podcast, get in touch as well. We'd love to chat with you about that. You all have a great week. Get out and enjoy the city, support local, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Good night, Grammy.